Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Send the Light podcast. My name is Mike, and before this episode begins, I wanted to give a short introduction. We recorded this in the Philippines. I was there on a mission trip together with my wife and some other brothers and sisters from our church. We were there for 10 days on a short mission trip, and we met up there with a missionary couple, Walter and Jeffy. They're also Filipino, and they were a great help for us uh, for the language barrier and the culture, and helping us out a lot. And I had the opportunity to sit down with Walter. He is a pastor and missionary there in the Philippines. And yeah, he shares about his ministry, his missionary work there. And yeah, this was recorded, however, on wireless microphones. So the quality wasn't as good as the usual microphones that we use for episodes, but I hope this doesn't bother you and that this episode could be a blessing to you. Enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Send the Light. My name is Mike, and today I'm in the Philippines. We're here for 10 days with some brothers and sisters from my church and on a mission trip here in the southern island of Mindanao. And we also connected with a Filipino missionary here, Pastor Walter, and his wife Jeffy. And I'm joined here today with Pastor Walter. Good morning, Maik.
Maik, good morning from the Philippines. This is Pastor Walter from Cebu, sending you greetings from here in the south of Mindanao.
And Pastor Walter, would you want to introduce yourself, maybe your testimony and what your mission field is?
Yes, I am Walter, and I'm a local missionary in one of the remote island in Cebu. I am in the extreme northern Cebu, Philippines. It is southern Philippines. I've been in the mission field for 8 years in that island, but overall I'm in the ministry for 20 years, serving in different regions in the Philippines. And our ministry basically is for those living in the islands and even in those islets, so we can like share the gospel with them. God called me back in 2016 to start the pioneering work over in that island. So based on our experience, it was wonderful. People are hungry for the gospel. So it is a wonderful opportunity for us to go there with my family, Jeffy and my 3 kids. So we share the gospel, and now my kids are growing, so they are a big help to me.
That's great. What are some ways you share the gospel, maybe in a typical week?
Normally during weekdays where people are busy working, so normally during the night we have Bible studies. But during the day, we go to the public square where there's a lot of college students, high school students, where we can give them the gospel tracts. It's just, for now, we are limited because in the Philippines, there's only a few that have the printing ministry. So we kind of like rely on other countries to give us gospel tracts so we can better communicate the gospel with them. Especially students are busy, so at least we can hand them out something they can read about the gospel.
And sharing the gospel, what are some challenges that you've been facing in the Philippines with the people, maybe with the culture?
Well, normally in the Philippines, because it is a wide Catholic nation, so I grew up also Catholic, but later in my life, when I was 19 years old, I was converted. So basically, I know how they came from, what kind of belief from the Spanish. So we kind of like study from there how to do a proper approach so that they will not be offended, because especially those in the island where people are so sensitive, even with your words, the kind of words you use, just they say use the proper words so that you will not lose them in the first conversation. So it's wonderful, just have them feel them free, that they're not like being forced to believe what you believe. Just tell them I have something to share with you. It's a good news. So at least it sounds like on a good note.
That's true, yeah. The good news, mayong balita.
Yes.
And what is some advice, maybe some practical tips for people listening, how to share the gospel? Maybe they're not living in the Philippines, maybe they're in Canada, where I'm from, or a different part of the world. But what are some tips that are true all over the world for sharing the gospel?
Well, here in the Philippines, where the culture is quite different, quite opposite, where we are not confrontational. So we kind of like, instead of asking them, if you die today, do you know for sure 100% that you go to heaven? For the Filipino culture, that is offensive because most of the Filipinos, they think you wish them to die now,
Mm,
or as if like they're talking about their death. Most of the Asians don't like to talk about death, so it's much better if you say, what if the time will come that you will meet your creator, something like that? Are you ready, or are you prepared to give some answers? Or like we say, have you received the gift of salvation lately? So it's kind of like not really direct, but it'll give them a big clue of some things they needed to prepare one day.
that makes sense. I think where I'm from, my background, German is definitely more direct than that. So um, I guess depends on what culture is. You're going to adapt the gospel in a way
Yes,
that you still bring the truth over, but that you don't offend people in a way that they don't want to hear it again, right?
especially on the spot. So you have to be very careful in your approach because you don't want to lose them.
Mm, that makes sense. And Pastor Walter, how old are you?
I am 43.
43, and you've been in the ministry for how many years? You were saying.
Yes, after school. So basically now it's 20 years.
And what is maybe some advice for people listening who also are considering going into the missionary ministry? What's some advice for them?
Well, for those that are having a plan or desire, or if you feel like God is calling you to respond to the missionary work, it's either in the Philippines or wherever in Asia or some parts of the world, the best thing to do is believe God, trust the process, don't hurry it, just believe in God, and don't be afraid. God will take care of you. They say where God calls, then He will just direct you, help you. There might be some failures at first, but that's part of the process. But there's a great feeling of satisfaction knowing that you obeyed God, you respond to the higher call, maybe the highest calling in your life more than being an engineer or a lawyer. Those professions, we need those. We need doctors, but sharing the gospel with people that needs to be prepared one day. Can you imagine you're being an instrument of telling people instead of them going to hell? No, you change their destination, their direction because you surrendered your life, not being selfish, as what the Bible says, not just looking or thinking about your own need in the book of Philippians, but also others. So it is a wonderful opportunity, wonderful, we'll say, privilege to be able to be part, as Paul said, being a partaker of the afflictions of the gospel.
Amen. And I think everyone who isn't a missionary can learn something from that to share the gospel in their daily life
Yes, of course.
and to not be selfish. I think for myself as well, it's easier to go through life and not um, talk to people about the gospel. If you're going into the store, you buy something, you just want to get out. You don't want to confront people. You don't want to put the effort in and start a conversation. But I think if we really have a love for people and their souls, it should give us energy also to share the gospel with other people. And Pastor Walter, you were mentioning to me privately about um, potentially going to a different island.
Yes.
And I'm curious, um, when praying about it, what are some ways that you hear God's speaking and calling to you to go there, and what's the update on that?
Well, being a missionary in the island for 9 years now, and so far the church looks like it can stand when I'm gone. Then we have some other people being on training right now in preparation for the transition once we leave and move to another island. So I believe God is preparing people, God is preparing hearts at the same time. He's preparing me and my family because it's not gonna be easy if you start all over again from scratch. especially in the financial aspect, even with the emotional attachment with the people. It's kind of hard, especially for children and my wife. For me personally, it's not really a big deal. In fact, I'm excited knowing that they're gonna be new people, especially in the place we're praying right now, where they are tribal people. It's a bigger island, 3 times the size of our province, and more than 1,000 islets. Can you imagine? But they will be converging in one city, not really a big city, but they're going there to be trained, go to school. So that's where we're praying that we can reach them with the gospel, and then if we can train them, like even have like having a Bible institute like that. Once they're finished with their courses, then they go back to their islets, their places where even though it's very far, like few kilometers away, and if we go there, help them, just like the Canadians are doing right now. The missionaries, the brothers, they came from Canada. They come here in southern Philippines because there's somebody from this area. So it is a big help. It's gonna be what kind of like of a ministry we're planning and we're praying to do.
That's right. What Pastor Walter was mentioning, we also had on the podcast an earlier episode, Benchi, who is from this area in the Philippines, and that's the reason why our church is also involved here. And you were saying, talking about islets, small
Yes.
islets being around that island. So for those who don't know, Philippines is made up of very many islands and very many little islands. And that's a very smart idea to focus on the big city, train the people there that come there for school, because they'll be going back to their little islets and bringing the gospel with them there. So you don't have to visit every single
Yes.
islet. You can focus on the main city, and the gospel will be carried out from there. Okay, Pastor Walter, thank you very much for taking time
Welcome.
to sit down. And I hope everyone listening that they had some encouragement, some maybe new insights in the life of a missionary. Thank you all for listening, and Pastor Walter, thank you again.